Simplify. So remember, radical 20 can be split up into radical 4 times radical 5, and square root of 4, what number times itself equals 4, is 2. So radical 20 can be turned into 2 radical 5. Okay, so bringing everything else down. Okay, because we can't split up these radicals any further, there's no perfect squares in them. We can only combine the like radicals. So 2 radical 5 plus 3 radical 5 is now 5 radical 5, and then we just bring down the minus radical 10. Okay, rationalize. So remember, we don't like leaving radicals in the denominator of a fraction, so let me just recopy the problem first. So to get rid of a one-term radical, we can multiply top and bottom by that exact same thing. Okay, so one key thing to remember is that this numerator basically has parentheses, so when I multiply by radical 6, both parts get affected. So 3 times radical 6 is 3 radical 6. Radical 6 times radical 2 is radical 12. And then radical 6 times radical 6 is just regular 6. So we can split up the radical 12 further, because radical 12 equals radical 4 times radical 3. So radical 4 times radical 3, radical 4 is 2, so 2 radical 3. Distribute and simplify. So 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. 8 times 2i is plus 16i. Negative 5i times negative 3 is plus 15i. Negative 5i times 2i is negative 10i squared. Okay, so remember, by definition, I squared equals negative 1. So negative 10 times I squared becomes negative 10 times negative 1, which is really plus 10. Okay, so combining like terms, negative 24 plus 10 is negative 14. And then 16i plus 15i is plus 31i. Rationalize. So unlike problem 10, here the denominator has 2 terms, not just 1. So in order to rationalize, meaning make no more i's in the denominator, instead of multiplying by the exact same denominator, we need to multiply by what's called the conjugate. So you switch the sign in the middle. So multiplying top and bottom by 2 minus I. And again, these all get treated with parentheses because we have to distribute. So up top, negative 3i times 2 is negative 6i. And then negative 3i times negative I is plus 3i squared. Okay, the denominator, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative I is negative 2i. I times 2 is plus 2i. I times negative I is negative I squared. Okay, so remember, the whole point of the conjugate is that these middle 2 terms should cancel out. So what are we left with? Up top, we have negative 6i plus 3i squared. But remember, I squared is negative 1. So 3 times negative 1 is actually minus 3. And then I keep the negative 6i. Then in the denominator, I have 4 minus I squared. But remember, I squared is negative 1. So 4 minus negative 1 is really 4 plus 1, which is 5. Okay, these 2 triangles are similar, so we're going to set up a proportion. So 8 to 12 equals 10 to whatever df is. So I'm going to cross multiply. 8 times df equals 10 times 12, which is 120. Divide both sides by 8. So df is 15. And then I'll repeat over here. So again, 8 to 12 equals AB to 9. So cross multiply, 12 times AB equals 8 times 9, which is 72. And we get AB equals 6. Okay, use properties of special right triangles. So for a 30, 60, 90 right triangle, the short leg is x, the hypotenuse is 2x, and the long leg is x radical 3. So if 14 represents 2x, that means the short leg x is 7 inches, and the long leg is the short leg times radical 3, so 7 radical 3 inches. Now for this special right triangle, this is a 45, 45, 90. So the two legs are equal. We'll call them both x, and the hypotenuse is x radical 2. So both legs are equal, so this leg is also 3 centimeters, and the hypotenuse is that times radical 2. Find h. So starting from the given angle, we know the opposite and the adjacent legs. So tangent is the appropriate trig function. So opposite over adjacent. And then we want to get the h by itself. So I'll multiply both sides by 100. Okay, so then you type 100 times tangent of 18 into your calculator, and you get approximately 32.49 meters. Okay, find theta. So starting from the angle, we know the opposite and the hypotenuse. So that means sine of our mystery angle theta equals 7 over 25. So to get theta, we need to do the inverse sine of both sides. Okay, so then you type this into your calculator and you get approximately 16.26 degrees. Okay, identify or write the equation of the circle in standard form and identify the center and radius. Okay, so first I'm going to rearrange and get the x's together and the y's together. Okay, so I know my goal is to end up with something that looks like this. Okay, so this number is always half of this coefficient, so half of -6 is -3. But if I were to multiply this out, I do get x squared minus 6x, but -3 squared, -3 times itself is +9. Okay, so this +9 that I need later isn't in the starting equation. So if I add 9 to the left side of the equal sign, I also need to add 9 to the right side. Similarly, for the y's, half of +2 is +1. But when I square it, +1 squared, 1 times itself, is a +1. Okay, so again, I already had the y squared plus 2y, but I need to create an extra +1. Okay, and on the right side, I already had the 6 from the beginning. So 6 plus 9 plus 1 is 16. So here's the standard form of the circle. So remember the vertex. So this is what standard form of a circle looks like. So h is 3. Okay, so here we have a +1, but it starts as a minus. So k must be -1 because minus -1 turns into +1. Okay, and then remember 16 is not r, 16 is r squared. So r, the radius, is actually 4. Okay, find the vertex form equation. So remember, vertex form looks like this, where hk is the vertex. So this problem doesn't tell us the vertex, but we can figure it out. It says the focus is at 6, -2, and the directrix is at -3. So the vertex is always halfway between the focus and directrix. So what's the focus is given to us at 6, -2, and the directrix is at -3, y equals -3. Okay, so the vertex has to be halfway between the focus and directrix. So halfway between -2 and -3 is -2.5. So the vertex is at 6, -2.5, and I plug those in for h and k. Okay, so now to find a, we need to think back to the front page. So remember the formula 1/4a is the distance between vertex and focus. Okay, so now from our picture, we know that the vertex and the focus are half a unit apart. So 1/4a equals 2. So I'll cross multiply. 1 times 2 is 2. 4a times 1 is 4a. And then divide both sides by 4. So a is a half. Okay, so putting it all together, here is the vertex form. Okay, conditional probability. 96 total people have pets if 60 are adults. 96 minus 60, the other 36 pet people must be children. 90 total adults, 60 of them have a pet, so the rest of them, the other 30, don't have a pet. 30 adults with no pets plus 24 children with no pets means 54 total with no pets. 36 children with pets plus 24 children with no pets equals 60 children total. And then 90 total adults plus 60 total children is 150 total people. Okay, so this symbol intersection means both things have to be true. So how many people have a pet and are adults? Well, that's only these 60 people. And how many total people could I have picked? I could have picked any of the 150. Okay, so this symbol, union, means either a pet or an adult or both. So I still have the 150 total people to pick from, but let's see how many successes there are. So first of all, how many people have pets? There's the 60 adults and the 36 children, so there's 96 total people with pets. Now, how many adults are there? Well, there's 90 total adults, but I already counted the 60 earlier. So I have 60 adults with pets, 36 children with pets, and then 30 adults without pets. So that's 90 plus 36, that's 126 people total. Okay, pet given child. So this time our denominator changes because I'm telling you, you can only look at the children. So there's only 60 to choose from. So of the 60 children, how many have pets? 36. Okay, and this symbol means the complement, meaning everything except children. Okay, so I've got 150 total people. How many are not children? There's 90 people who are not children, the 90 adults. Okay, and then are these independent or not? So one way we can check is the probability of both things, so probability of adult and having a pet, equal to the probability of the first thing times the probability of the second thing. Okay, so adult and pet, is that equal to the probability of being an adult, 90 out of 150, times the probability of having a pet, 96 out of 150. Okay, so using a calculator, the left side is 0.4, while the right side is 0.384. So since these are not equal, that means they are not independent.